Settle in and begin to sense and feel in this moment your contact with your floor. Every time we do this, come to the floor, lay out, turn inward. It's different. Just like the breath you breathed the moment before or the next moment. There's a difference. It can't be the same. And when we revisit lessons, each time our awakening, our experience, our learning is new. Whether something awakens for the first time, whether something becomes a little clearer or gets a little bit more confusing. It's the process of learning versus it's linear. As you lie here, each in your own time, can you begin the process of creating a primary line? It's imaginary. And I'm going to suggest you start first at your tailbone. Depending on the orientation of your legs, this will discern the relationship your tailbone has to the floor, as well as your lower back. Tune in to find where is my tailbone. Anatomically, I can tell you how to find it. You could palpate yourself. There's something we call the gluteal crack. We all know it. And at the very, very top of the gluteal crack, it's the great divide that divides the right buttocks from the left. If you palpate a little bit inward, but at the very top, that's your tailbone. That's where it is. Continue up your trail into your sacral bone. It's curved. It's a natural fused bone of 4 to 5 vertebrae. They don't differentiate. And then continue up your spine into the lumbars, 1 vertebra at a time. Can you find it? Can you imagine if 1.5 inches apart, approximately, builds the next vertebra on top? Continue the trail up. How many of the back of those vertebrae, they're called the spinous process, do you actually feel making contact with the floor? And then you could actually do a little something gently, maybe on an exhalation, where you think, I think I'm thinking of that vertebra. Could you lean into that vertebra just to clarify as I lean into the floor, thinking of that vertebra, and then I let go. It's a little bit of a back movement into the floor, and then you just release it to clarify, am I tapping in, so to speak, to the vertebra I'm intending? Is it clearer for me or not so clear? And then continue up, whether you want to do that little exploration of movement. It's a little bit of a leaning and then release. But you are more narrowly focusing on one vertebra, while can you, in that more narrow focus, can you keep a more open focus? Not just the foreground, the background. And continue to trail up your spine through the 5 lumbars, the 12 thoracics. And by the time you come up to the very top of the thoracics into your cervical spine, I would suggest don't expect to feel them against the floor. Just imagine. They're curves. Those curves are healthy for our skeletal support. These curves create our shock absorption. And in between each vertebra, the body of the vertebra, there's a disc, a little pillow to help that absorption. When you travel all the way up, and you notice I'm at the back of my skull. Notice where you rest on the back of your skull. And the relationship, that place where you rest on the back of your skull, has in relationship to where your nose or your chin are in relationship to the ceiling. And then if you like, you could actually extend that imaginary primary or central line that moves outside the crown of your head further up, as if it was going to continue that line to the wall that is over your head, wall or window, whatever is there in your home. Can you follow that trail back down? You're listening. It's really the absence of doing other than imagining or make believe or visualize. What are the ways in for you that make it clearer what is being asked? When you complete the trail, in your own time, listen to your breathing. Can your throat remain wide and open? How do we do that if we're thinking, how do I keep my throat wide and open? What happens to your tongue? And the softening in your eyes. And it's not that you hold that, you keep that. It's a transitioning, returning to that place when you notice, oh, I moved away from it. How quickly can I find it again? Now slowly, with your legs long, unless you have your feet standing, begin to see if you can find, in an image, one of your vertebrae. Maybe you want to start at the lowest one, L5, L4, somewhere near the sacral bone in your pelvis. Is that easier? Or is there another vertebra for you that it's clearer? That's where I'm going to start. And I'm going to ask you to start where it's clearer for you to identify that's me. And that tiny little movement, we often refer to it as a translation or a sliding. And I've also begun to speak of it as a teeny weeny little swinging. That you want to move that one vertebra you're focused on. For you, a little to the right and then back. Movement is so tiny that if you're really thinking of that one vertebra, it's a millimeter, a centimeter, a 32nd of an inch. It's tiny. The minute the movement becomes bigger, as it will, it's more pulling other vertebrae above it or below it. In the beginning, you just ask, can I do less? I'm just searching. And if you are exploring, do you notice as you refine your searching, are you holding your belly in, or your breath, or your eyes, or your throat tensed a little bit? There's no correction here. It's just calling attention to, oh my gosh, I did do that. And the only reason why I share this is because I know what I do. So if I do it, might other of you also experience, oh, I did some of that too. It's a human experience. We just want to notice it and go, okay, do more of it, or can I now not do that? And then take that one vertebra, you move it a little bit and then you let go. You move it a little bit and you let go to the right and you let go. Now take it a little to the left. But it's more on a sliding. It's not a rotation to roll or turn. It's more just a side to side. Often referred to as a translation. a sliding. I like the swing as the movement progresses. And then alternate from side to side, just a little. It's so subtle that you might begin to feel a movement travel below and above that initiating vertebra. However, it should be so indiscernible that an unobserved eye won't even pick it up. And this is what we build our skill, our ability as Feldenkrais practitioners, to be observers with soft eyes, kind thoughts, without judgment. And then move either one vertebra up or one vertebra down and begin the same exploration. And after you've completed that, continue either up or down another vertebra. For those that were in these classes last week, is something getting a little, oh, it's a little clearer? Or is it still as confusing, befuddling? Listen to your breathing and softening where you can. Maybe you want to bring your hands to your lower belly. Should you do that, please keep your elbows on the floor so that you don't have to lift your arms. Just you slide the hands in the lower area to the right or the left of what would be your lower belly. Your pinky fingers might even rest near what we call the inguinals. So this is the area closest to the pelvis where the legs start to join into the pelvic bowl. Just to give you feedback, is my belly soft? If you feel that you have to stretch or reach, do less. Let those elbows rest comfortably on the floor. So your fingers, you know, we used to joke with the yellow pages, let your fingers do the walking. Your fingers are receivers of information. And the amount of sensory nerve endings we have in our hands and our fingers are so huge. The sensitivity. Think about how you would use your hands to touch a baby, or your puppies, or a loved one. And you touch yourself the same way. Continue the trail either up or down on your own time, feeling this little side to side. Rest as you need to. I'll just continue sharing variations that you join in with. Do pause as often as you need to rest your brain, your nervous system, from this attention, this fine-tuned attention, which takes a lot of energy. As you continue your process, or notice if you prefer to stop, bring your feet to stand if they're long. Listen to that process of how you do that. Notice the shift that happened with your feet standing now in your spine. The relationship of your spine, that primary line, the trail that you noticed at first in your scan, and now with your feet standing, what changed? And return to these movements of that gentle translation or swing or swaying of a vertebra from one side to the other. Continue either traveling up or down. The length of the trail through your spine that you choose to explore is your exploration in this moment. But it's a theme that I've been building so that it will begin to become a pattern in your brain that even maybe as you get in bed to go to sleep or you get up in the morning, it's something you revisit. A little bit. Because it's starting to wire in. And it can make you feel oh so much nicer. Even if it's a minute or two. Just feel where you journey, where it's simpler and easier. Are you noticing that one vertebra moves to one side a little simpler than the other? And because your feet are now standing, is there the slightest, subtlest awareness that my feet feel something? They sense something. Are they doing something? But let that be a question versus, yes, I'm doing it. And is it different than when your legs were long? So to make a comparison, you choose, keep one foot standing and elongate the other leg long. And notice the one you chose. Does that have something to do with where some of your vertebra might be easier to slide? Continue the trail, whether you are still moving upwards or you moving down. And whether the trail is 4 or 5 vertebrae you play with or more. That's where you are today playing. Then bring the foot that went long to stand. Lengthen the other leg. Continue the trail. Does it help clarify why you chose the first leg to elongate? It might have, it might not. We're discerning and distinguishing the subtlest differences. Some of them might be so subtle, it's not so clear yet what the difference is. Continue to feel how your belly can remain soft, your intention soft, your attention soft. And slowly come to rest, whether your legs are long, feet standing, or you've returned the roller behind your knees. Everyone take a little pause. Notice your contact with the floor. And sensations of you. Is that changing? Is the quality of how you rest and breathe changing? And is the change for the better? This time, begin the trail again, and every time you translate a vertebra to the right, meaning you take that vertebra and you slide that body of the vertebra a little to the right, centimeter, millimeter, a 32nd of an inch, just a little, and you bring it back. Take the tip of your tongue and let it slide into the left cheek, as if you're going to push out in the left cheek. So as you take the vertebra to the right, you use the tip of your tongue into the left cheek. And then you continue the movement of taking the vertebra to the right, but now take the tip of your tongue into the right cheek as you do it. Keep with the same vertebra for a moment and begin to alternate, not the vertebra. The vertebra will still swing or slide or translate a little to the right, but now you're going to compare what's different when you take the tip of your tongue either into the right cheek or the left. What's different? Something is different. and which pattern for you feels, they're both viable, but feels more congruent. And it's okay not to know. Here it is totally okay to be confused. But we could notice if there's a moment where we pause because it's, where am I going? Or we hold our breath or our eyes tense. And then using this approximation, the tongue goes once in the opposite cheek and then into the same side cheek. Begin to play with swinging that vertebra that you started with only to the right, now from the right to the left. And use your tongue comparing. Where is it that it feels if I take the tip of my tongue into a cheek? That one pattern that I'm comparing, does it go in the same side cheek as the vertebra I swing to the left? Or does it go into the opposite cheek? What's different? And you continue then to trail up or down the spine, one vertebra at a time, seeking for it, approximately 1.5 inches away. And play this variation. Be willing not to know you have the answer. Be willing to not know and be in uncharted territory to notice there's merit to everything. Is there maybe a vertebra on one side where the tongue going in one direction or the other made it easier for you? One vertebra. But another vertebra, it might not have. And then the variations of bringing your feet to stand, or having one foot stand and one leg long. Choose one of those variations to add into this exploration. And notice which ones you are choosing. And whether you're trailing up or down, the exploration is the same. The patterning is a little different. And you notice within this reiteration of the theme, I'm giving you choice. Because the whole thing in Feldenkrais is, instead of somebody always has to tell you what to do, you are so intelligent. We just haven't been, I even hate to say taught, but shared that we can figure things out. We have. When there isn't anybody else there to tell you what to do. And it's learning to trust within ourselves. We have a skill and an ability. It might not be really fully honed yet, but that's why we have the term an autodidact, someone that is a self-teacher, a self-learner. And then change the configuration of your legs. If your feet are standing, lengthen one leg, have 1 foot stand. And when you choose this, I didn't tell you, you choose it, is there a sensation or feeling that it feels easier or nicer or simpler? The questions you don't have to answer, but internally you're recognizing, why did I choose that? And it is a choice, at least here. Leave that all alone. Give yourself a rest. Revisit your contact in your primary line. Whether you use your hands to support your head and create this movement, or you understand what I'm asking. Translate your head either to the right or the left. It means your face, your nose, your eyes still stay in the plane of the ceiling. You bring one ear, your right ear, closer to the right shoulder, or your left ear closer to the left shoulder. Only go where it's easy. Don't do the fullest amount. Open your eyes to make sure you're not rolling your head, which means that the nose would then be turning to the opposite side. You translated your head. A variation would be to interlace your hands, place them behind the fullest portion of your skull, allow your arms to rest towards the floor, and simply slide your arms. One elbow would arc a little down, the other one would arc a little up. That would create the translation. Then leave your head there. But if you want to translate once to one side, once to the other, the elbows don't come towards the ceiling as you translate. If they are, maybe you're doing the movement a little too big. It's a small movement. It does not have to be big. And are you just allowing the neck to move, or is something else starting to happen in your ribs as a passive response? Not about doing it, but allowing, letting, releasing any contractions or holds of not allowing, to become aware of that. And then stay in that position, whichever you chose, which way you've translated your head. If you've used your hands to help you, then remove your hands, just leave the head there. And let the arms rest beside you. And go back to finding one vertebra at a time, making a very subtle translation or sliding of that vertebra a little, once to one side. Which one did you start with? And then to the other. That's where I came in calling it a little bit of a swing. Side to side. It's not rolling like a rotation, but a little swing, side to side. So small. And then, do you want to add in your tongue? So if you translated your head to one side, let's say I see some of you have translated your head to the right, others to the left. Pay attention to the contours of your ribs. On the side, there'll be an indication also in your contact with the floor on the back. Which vertebrae does this make more congruent in the swinging from side to side? And in which direction would you begin to allow your tongue moving to a cheek to elucidate? Ooh, it's honoring that pattern a little bit more. And when I swing in this position, you don't change your head or anything, but I swing that same vertebra to the other side, don't force. Where is it? Ooh, there's a little bit of a, what we would call a differentiation happening. And especially when there is a differentiation, listen to how you breathe, because it's different. And continue your journey. But I'm going to add in right now, whatever side you have your head translated to, bring that foot to stand, have the other leg be long. And just continue. Whether you're trailing up your spine or down. Listening. Each vertebra has its own personality. Function defines structure, how we've organized, use ourselves in movement. And the shape of each vertebra, the lumbars, the thoracics, the cervicals, each individual vertebra has its own little personality and shape, even though they're of the cervicals or the thoracics or the lumbars. And as they build from the bottom up, they get a little smaller. They change the angle of that spinous process. Or if you're going from the top down, as we trail down, each vertebra gets a little bigger. And the direction of that spinous process and the joints on the side of that vertebra that connect it to the next vertebra get different. Keep everything the same, but change over which leg you have standing and which leg is long. And of course, when you need to rest, you do that. You don't have to get permission. You just come back in when you're ready. Continue the journey. And the question becomes, as you're exploring the pattern of translating each vertebra one at a time, trailing up or down, whether you use your tongue or you choose to let that rest, you have a specific shape you've created by bringing your head over to one side. How has it changed? Are certain vertebrae that seemed easier with the other foot standing? Not as simple. It's puzzling or surprising. And then leave that all go. Lengthen yourself or make yourself the most comfortable to take your pause. And notice your contact. I'm going to continue on a specific idea before we compare. So again, the side that you translated your head to, it was the side you chose. You're going to do that again. And as you do that, if it's comfortable enough to have your legs long, you keep them long. If not, you can have your feet standing. But to the side you are translating your head to, and you're going to keep it there. Could you then slide that same side leg a little further out to that side, encouraging that arc, go where it's comfortable because you're going to stay there. And then to where it's available or comfortable, slide that other leg closer to the leg you just slid out to the translated side. Don't stretch or strain. Where it's available, you can hang out. And notice that one side of you got really fanned apart and long, and the other side created like a C shape, a curve, often referred to as lateral flexion or side bending. But your face, your nose is still organized towards the ceiling. And there, from this position, find the vertebra that you're going to begin this process again. And because it's becoming familiar, maybe you don't need to just go to one side at a time. You go from one side through the middle to the other. A little bit of a swinging. But it's small because your intention is to initiate from one vertebra. And it does mean, I'm going to help clarify, that the other vertebra will start because of its subtle little pulley system through tendons, ligaments, muscles. It will start to have a come along. And because you're making the movement, the stimulation so small, the movements of cooperation, of participation passively, are so small that you just listen, like a gentle little wave. It's almost fish-like maybe, or mermaid-like. Or what is it like for you? And then add in your tongue if you haven't already. To which side, when you take your tongue, for you, does it elucidate something? Does the tongue want to move through your mouth, depending on which direction the vertebra is going? Or because of this shape, no matter what, it wants to go to one side only? And then right yourself, meaning slide your head back to the neutral, slide your legs back to the neutral, and do the trail a few times, side to side. Whether you use your tongue or you don't, trailing up your spine or down, revisiting, what changed? Listen to your breathing. And then just pause a moment or two. The absence of the doing, the focusing on. More just to, that's it for the moment. In that moment when I share, just that's it for the moment, just rest. Was there something that let go in your intention, in you, that said, it's time out, pause. And notice your contact. Slowly translate your head to the other side, not the side you chose. And because it wasn't the side you initially chose, please go very gently, small. 1 millimeter of movement or centimeter of movement in that direction could be enough for someone. You never want to go to the part where you challenge yourself. And here's a little something I'm going to share. If your chin is more depressed in the direction of your chest, the vertebrae of your neck are not in their neutral. If the chin is a little bit more towards the chest, the back of the vertebra are open. That joint surface is more open, but the front of the vertebra is more closed. So movement will be a little impeded. If you notice that your head is so far rocked back, as if you could see the wall over your head, then the front of the vertebra will be a little bit more open, the back of the vertebra will be closed. So we're looking for that alignment where it's just right, just in the middle. And there'll be a specific place on the back of your skull that helps you clarify this is it. Might not be familiar for everyone, but you start to explore it so that you can sense and feel and think about it. And then have a better sense of self, self-acknowledgement, self-awareness, and self-direction. Continue the movements of swinging the vertebra gently side to side. What's different with your head translated to the opposite side? Does it feel like one arm is lower on the floor towards your thigh than the other as a result of this translation? And then slide your legs over to the side you've now translated your head to. And continue the exploration, whether you are journeying up the spine or down the spine. Whether you bring the tongue into the equation, or that's a little too much right now, you are self-directing as I share the options. That's it. Yes, even though these movements are so subtle, there is such a lovely picture of all of you that I can see on this floor. Whether you realize it or not, there's the subtlety of movement that my eye picks up the same degree as if I was watching a sunrise or a sunset, minute to minute. Something's changing. I might not be able to tell you exactly, but there's this lovely wave of movement. As if you were a tiny little fish, beginning to find how through your spine. Some people would say, oh, the snake. And you can think of certain cultures, ethnicities, with their dances, how they articulate through their body, through their joints, their spine, to do some of these movements that we just look at in awe. Some cultures, music, the tones are semitones. And so it's different to another ear, yet you can attune your ear to it and begin to discern the subtlety of so small a difference, yet it's there. And then stand one foot. Which foot would you want to stand in this variation that is going to be there in such a way, and explore the movements to feel, well, how come I chose that foot? Did that shorten that side a little? Did that lengthen it more? There's no right or wrong. There's learning. Continue the movement, and then change over which leg you stood. It's still in a bias to the side. What did it change? Did you stand the foot now that is the foot of the side that is more lateral flexed or side bent, or translate the head to? Or the other one? What's different? What does it afford you of, or clarify, or confuse? Then leave that all alone, lengthen yourself, take a rest. Notice your contact. And remember, in the beginning, I shared the very beginning, maybe to help elucidate this primary line, this center line, the line of your spine from the tailbone all the way up. Could you, as subtly, think of different vertebrae? Maybe you start in your tailbone. Could you direct your tailbone towards the floor and then let go? Then could you direct your sacral bone, because it's a much bigger area, maybe the area of the sacral bone closest to the tailbone, and lean it into the floor and let go. Maybe you then ride up to the top of the sacral bone and lean it into the floor and let go. And then you go to L5, L4, approximately 1.5 inches apart, trailing up your spine, but now the direction is not side to side. It's a little bit back into the floor and let go. Instead of a lateral side folding, it's more a forward and back. If you played this variation in the very beginning to help clarify the primary line and the back of your spine, is it easier or simpler? And how far up could you trail one vertebra? And as you begin to trail up your spine this way, or returning, coming back down, can you start to do it in such a way, only if it's clear enough, that the timing of your coordination, as you go to depress one vertebra and then go to let go of it, the next vertebra in the line, the chain that you are following, down or up, begins to lean or depress. As you get ready to let go of that one, the next one consecutively begins its journey. In a sense, it's a gentle little idea of a relay where you pass off the baton. And you want your timing to be so congruent that you don't drop the baton. It's linking one vertebra to another. And begin to feel if there's a little bit of a wave that travels up and down for you, above the vertebra you're intending, as well as below. This is a little bit more of what I would call the worming or the caterpillaring sensation. This is how I woke up today. I had a whole different intention of where I would go, and something in my brain went, this is going to be our lesson. And I just share with you, this is how I wake myself up every day. This is how I go to bed every day. It might not be this lesson, but it's some lessons of movement with this awareness that I can ask, what am I doing? Am I just in a pattern? Or can I really slow it down to pay attention and discern? There, I find myself. I self-direct. It's a self-acknowledgement of me, finding me, freeing me from, I do joke, the shackles of life where other people authoritate over us. Become your own authority. We say in so many sources, know thyself. What better way, as if you can begin to create an image like an artist of your spine. It's beautiful as it is. Despite all the assaults and injuries of life we all incur, and yet it can be so wonderful. And as we grow older, we can continue to improve. Feel your contact. Listen to your breathing. Create the image of your primary line again. If you need movement to help elucidate, by all means, gentle and slow. But if the image within you is awakening, think about all the times when you need to be out and about doing. Maybe you're standing at the market, which we do still need to go to with masks and everything on, and you could stand there and find your spine in the vertical. Or maybe it's sitting, waiting, because we have to be at some appointment. And you could bring yourself not to the back of the chair just to give yourself over, but find your own skeletal support to sit in. This lesson can be done seated. Slowly, let all of this go, but only with the understanding that now transition yourself from lying on your back to bring yourself up to stand. Listen to your process. Can you imagine your spine? Where those spinous processes are now rolling, turning, rotating. Maybe there's some of that lateral flexion happening as you come up to sit. Where are your limbs that help support you? What is the timing of your coordination that it did not hamper or interfere with your breathing? Where did your eyes go? Your tongue? The length of you? And transition yourself to come to stand in your own time. It's so important at the conclusion of a lesson, it's not done. There is at least an hour that your brain is still playing and focusing on this without your even intending. All you need to do is give yourself the time to pause and rest. Some might want to rest or eat. Some might feel more enervated. All I ask is that you pause a little longer before you jump back in to your daily habits, whether they be on your phone, your computer. And as you come to stand, feel your verticality. You could even feel in standing, could you replicate a little bit of these movements? And then notice, because you're standing and your only base of support are your feet. But what did you feel when your back was all against the floor? Can you begin to discern how that sway starts to happen and shift a little bit of weight, ever so subtle. Have a little walk. Enjoy your day. And there'll be another lesson on a similar theme on the Friday class.